Peace, everybody. This is God in them streets. I know I've been missing in action for a little while, but I'm back because, like always, no disrespect. Because, like I said, I know Bimmy, Joe, they little sister, Dodie, just from being out there in the desert. He might not remember me like that, but I know prior to going over there to be dealing with Supreme and them on the other side, that he should remember one of the guards, by the name of Born King, that used to live out there on his side and used to do a few things for a well-known individual out there in the underground world at that time called Ronnie Bump. And I'm quite sure he would remember my brother Born King teaching them young brothers back then, that they are the original man and the supreme being of the planet Earth. So like I said once again, no disrespect to you, Bimmy, but at the same token, sometimes we got to address things, especially when you put the 5% Nation of Gods of Earth in a bad light. So I'm getting ready to play this little section here from an interview with him and Matt Harper talking about, him being a Christian and Supreme and them being 5%. So I'd like to see what's your analysis of his statement.
But true power is knowing that you won before you even do anything.
Play the game.
You know what I mean?
But me personally, like, what my power was is, like, I was a Christian. Every guy I was with was a 5%. They believed it was God. Everyone believed it was God. Supreme, Just, Prince, Garby, Wise, Green Eye Bro. All these guys, they God. They God body. They believe it was God. I always believe. Believe. I'm not God. This is me up there. You know what I'm saying? And I'm the only one here to tell the story.
So once again, y'all, I'd like for y'all to cross-examine that statement and not take it as I'm being biased because, my whole way of life from the age of knowledge, culture, of freedom, which is 14 years old, which truthfully I was introduced to the 5% Nation by my cousins over in Albany Projects, which is a law of projects, back in 1973, in which I was 11 years old. They was, ex-Jolly Stompers, and then they changed their names to ex-Cons. And in 1973, when I went over to 1191 Park Place, my cousins that lived on the 10th floor in 10F, you know what I'm saying? I walked into the door and they had Pig Most Wanted on the refrigerator, So I'm like, what's going on? I start to hear they no longer calling themselves by their government names or their street names, but they got these righteous names. So I walk to the back and I see what they call a book of life at that time. So I want to know how these individuals that was leading me astray out in the street, committing little various crimes and, so forth and so on developing my reality of street life. But now there was something different about them. It was a glow about them. They seemed more aware of things. So I said, let me see that book of life. And my cousin Boo Boo, who was thick at that time, they called him Supreme, and he was well known in the hood for knocking individuals out, so forth and so on. So he told me, you got to go to the bathroom first, and wash your hands. So I'm like, wow, these dudes is really different now. So I come back, he let me see the book of life, I'm seeing the supreme mathematics, the supreme alphabet, the 12 Jews. But what interests me the most is when I got to the student enrollment, the first degree was in it, was who is the original man. The original man is the Asiatic black man, the maker, the owner, the cream of the planet Earth, father of civilization, and God of the universe, And I was so intrigued by that because you got to understand, I'm a 62 baby, so I experienced a lot of racism in New York. Just like they say up in all these guys is telling stories about the Supreme Team, and one of them got a site which is Pure Savage or whatever, and the individual talks about, how out there in Queens, which we call the desert, but the guards also called it the oasis because it had life, it had wisdom when they started, teaching this philosophy that we was no longer, just slaves and everything like that. But in the little documentary, he stated that, Supreme and them grew up in a town where there was a lot of racism, which is my town. And they talk about a occurrence where, this individual named, I think his name was Clifford Glover, and he was 10 years old. And him and his father was walking on Jamaica Avenue or whatever, and the police killed them. And that sent outrage with us all throughout, New York City. But also, I had my own personal experiences, which I'm going to go into at a later date, with an individual that I was very close with, at the tender age of 14 being killed, by the police, named Randolph Evans Divine in 1976. But anyway, let me continue with my story as far as with my cousins in there. Now remember, like I said, they was gangbangers, Jolly Stompers, Tomahawks, Black Spades, Savage Skulls, Black Skulls, Ex-Vandals, Together Brothers, Crazy Homicides, Sex Boys, all these gangs is going on. Hellcats during this time. 31s, La Familia, Hardy Boys, everything. But anyway, they let me read, like I said, the first degree. So I asked them, how can I be down? So I'm figuring it's going to be some more gang activity where, we going to go through some type of physical initiation. So my cousin tells me, you got to go on a fast for 7 days and do nothing but drink water and eat ice cream. So I'm 11 years old. I can't fathom that. So I said, Father, you see King that. I ain't with that. So I stepped away. But it wasn't until 1976 when I went in for my summer youth corps job that I was sent to Alpha School on Linden Boulevard, which is not too far from Cypress, not too far from Pink Houses, not too far from Linden Plaza. Or if you go on the other side, not too far from Linden Houses, Boulevard Houses, Penn Workman, Gershwin. You know what I'm saying? So this is the summer of 1976. And my summer youth corps job was to go to school. Now, Alpha School is still there. It's an alternative school, like Redirection, Pacific, Satellite, all those schools that, the gangsters used to go to. So that summer, they decided that they would make it a summer youth corps job in which we could go to school and get credits toward our high school degree. So me being the type of individual that I am, why I'm going to be out there walking around picking up papers or any of these other things when I could go and get an education. And like I said, I'm going to Franklin K. Lane in my freshman year in 9th grade. So they say all credits that we do, we're going to get paid for going to school, and you're going to get credits going toward your high school diploma. So I'm like, I'm all with that. And where I was blessed was at that time, the whole, damn near everybody that was in there was God or Earth. Because at that time, the pink houses, which is known as the powerhouses, was real strong back then. You know what I'm saying? Shout out, rest in peace, Lord Supreme. Shout out, you know what I'm saying, to my great sister, Black Earth, all the other Earths that was there at that time, Makiba, She Asia, Equality, all type of sisters. I can't mention them all, at that time, Tamika, Medina. Like I said, it was full at that time with gods and earths, and the powerhouses, pink houses, was also one of the first real strongholds out there during that time. So I ran into a brother named God Revere, and he just gave me the supreme mathematics, supreme alphabets, the 12 jewels, and the student enrollment, and I was calling myself at that time, I took on the attribute or the righteous name of Wonderful God, but I really didn't get too much off into that, because once I learned what I had, I was basically stuck. And a brother came to me in my building, and his brother, you know what I'm saying, was a part of the nation, but no longer a part of it. And he had the whole 120. But he had the 120 of Robert Walker lessons at that time, who was an individual that, tried to start an off branch of the 5% nation, with a different flag than our universal flag, 13-point star flag, and, like a lot of these individuals that get a lot of knowledge and want to be gurus and leaders of their own thing. So basically, he started what you call the firstborn Muslims. That was different than us as 5%, because all the older brothers always taught us how you could distinguish them from us, is that the firstborn Muslims, they come with all these plus degrees, why is water wet, you know what I'm saying, why is the sky blue, how many beats a heartbeat of a mosquito beat, and the Statue of Liberty, and all these plus lessons. But then when you take them back to the foundation of our 120, and see, that's the difference. A lot of individuals didn't want to be 5%ers back then if they didn't have the ability to retain our degrees, So that might have been the deterrence too, because at that time it was really serious. If you ain't know your degrees and know your lessons properly and lived it right and exact, we used to call, or the older individuals had put it out there in some of the communities, what they call a universal beatdown. We never subscribed to that, beating brothers up for not knowing their degrees and, taking flags, because, you could do this to an individual today, and then 3, 4, 5 years later, which a lot of individuals did, they went and became something else. So I respect Bimmy when he said, that I was a Christian and I remained a Christian. But the part that I can't, respect is that when he said that because them individuals believed in themselves other than a mystery God, and because they was all, in that life of selling drugs and committing assaults, murder, whatever had to be done to maintain, that stronghold and that lock on the drug game at that time. And of course, them individuals, went and got, life without no parole. And because he is out here, that you could contribute that to because of their study of themselves and believing in themselves as being, the original man and the sole controller of their actions, that they did something wrong and you did something right because, once again, you believed in, that mystery God or whatever you believed in, Christ. And I'm not saying nothing is wrong for those because, to have a belief is to have a doubt. We believe because believe means to have confidence, in what you saying is your reality or what you subscribe to and manifest. So once again, let me just go back through this one more time. And like I said, Bimmy, I know you and I both have changed, the things that we did back at that time. But I would just like you to clear that up and not try and make it seem like all 5%ers, participated in drugs and destruction and everything else. Because prior to the drug game, that in those communities, we crushed it, all gang violence. We made individuals come together. We protected individuals in and outside of the penitentiary. But just to make sure that y'all don't think that I'm ranting and raving, over his statement, I would like to play that statement once again.
But me personally, like, what my power was is, like, I was a Christian. Every guy I was with was a 5%er. They believed it was God. Everyone believed it was God. Supreme, just, Prince, Garby, Wise, Green Eye Boy. All these guys, they God. They God body. They believed it was God. I always believe. Believe. I'm not God. This is way up there. You know what I'm saying? And I'm only here to tell the story. I'm only here to tell the story. You know what I'm saying? And ain't no knocking.
Once again, you see what he said. He said he's the only one here to tell the story. Well, I'm going to show y'all another story. And this story right here, as you can see, right? It said the law is God, a recorded 5%er book. And this was a book from back when I was like Knowledge Bill, 18 years old. Knowledge Born, 19 years old. On my way to college, where we had the Fountain of Youth. As you can see, back then, my name was Shabu, God Allah. All right? As y'all can see, again, up close, because I want to make sure that a lot of y'all see this. Right here, right at the end, it says 1981. The Knowledge Day of Civilization classes, peace of law, and you got a brother that wrote up in the corner, God, love God forever. Word is born, and born is life, because that's our knowledge agree. Like the gang cats, they always talk about taking oaths and all that. The greatest oath that you can take is word is born, And like we say, word is born regardless to whom or what, And my word is my bond, and my bond is my life, and I will give my life before my word shall fail. But also, in this book right here, you know what I'm saying? On the other side, it says the gods from the far east. This is right up the block from Cypress Hill Projects, okay? The first one that's on there, I want to make sure that some of y'all can see this. The first name up there is Minister Allah. And it says Wisdom Cipher Day 1981. Knowledge born, build knowledge. Minister Allah. Like Clay said, there was only 2 people, that was out there that he was afraid of, Black C. Shabay, Rasta T, and he might do one day on our great brother that was, really putting it down, because a lot of people back in the days, they used to try and punctify a percentage for us teaching the truth and saying that we was God. Don't think that it was just done like that. That's why we had a lot of individuals that was classified as gangster gods, And like we say from Medina, which is Brooklyn, the gods from Medina is the warriors, So I'm from Medina where the grass is greener and the gods is meaner, okay? But like I said, out there in this world, a lot of people know Minister Allah's first name, El Rahim. From out our way, they called him Ski Head, because there was a fable going around that back in the days, like I said, I moved out to Cypress Hills in 1967, going on 68. So all our beef used to be with the Caucasians before y'all got to be able to come out there and fight and kill amongst one another, And Minister got the name Ski Head, because he was supposed to have chopped off, the pizza man's head and ran through the projects, with his head. But that was kind of a fable. But they did, once I stated, the Black Messiahs, they took care of situations like that and protect us from a lot of the white gangs. But Minister Allah is the first name. Divine Prince Allah, which a lot of people in our nation know. My name, Shabu God Allah. My man at that time, Ray's son, Son Bay, another individual. Me and the guard used to go down there. I'm going to tell that story too, how we used to go down to Victory of Law and get all them guards units, My student, the first and great one that taught a lot of individual peace, Arif, I'm glad that you home. Arif God Allah. And like I said back then, Arif and them was like knowledge, wisdom, knowledge, understanding, them individuals like power years younger than me. Divine Justice Allah. Latik God Allah. Everybody know, my brother, once again, another one of the young guards I taught, rest in power, Latik God Allah. Latik used to do it all. The brother that gave us the whole building, this brother, he was a boxer. His name was Mentally Allah. He's the one that gave us the building. Then you had Born Prince Allah. At that time, he's a power rule. Matter of fact, I seen him about maybe a year or 2 ago, and his arm was missing. I seen him up there on Pennsylvania Avenue. But I remember him. He was a power rule brother. My brother and great brother, Ayallah, that before his name was Ayallah, was Haj Malik, one of the great brothers as far as the science, with this nation. Broke down many things that's in this right here book, a supreme wisdom book. I'm not going to show it all to you because a lot of y'all's a bunch of bloodsuckers. But wise Allah understanding. Tasin God Allah. Divine Eye Allah. God Shamik Allah. Remember, hardcore. Knowledge Shamik. No joke. Older God was about it. Malik Allah to this day, one of our OGs from out there. Matter of fact, I told you in another one of my joints back that Malik used to deal with Prince Marky D's mother. Her name was Rosa, and she had a little restaurant right there on the corner of Milford and Sutter. Okay. Then you had another brother, Supreme Allah. Wonderful Shanique God Allah. That's Son Bay's brother. Old man Kusa Allah. Shout out to Prince Supreme and Unique, they owe that. Knowledge Supreme Allah. My man Lamik, I think that's Big Head Lamik Divine, that was from out of, or the heart of Medina, Bed-Stuy as they say. And last but not least, that day, a brother wrote his name down at the bottom right here. Supreme Judgment, Thy Penalty, God. Yeah, because God was really giving out penalties, especially for disrespect and being savages and all that at that given time, Just a few more joints, Born Universal. That's before he changed his name to A-Leaf, Allah Supreme from the desert. His name was Allah Kemal back then. Q7 to 120-27 140. Y'all can see all these numbers because these people don't live there no more. Over there by the park on Van Wyck. Okay, the brother in the nation that made the flag. Universal Sham God Allah. His telephone number, you know what I'm saying? One of the heads of Medina, 5% nation. So I just be like in verified, Back of the book, Old Man Kusa. Matter of fact, I got my man up here too, from Flatbush, Shati, Allah, number and everything, 18 East 21st Street. So I just be wanting to let y'all know, that we was about this prior to any drug dealing, so forth and so on. Here we go right here. The history and creation of the Supreme Universe, part 2. See, a lot of y'all couldn't be a part of the nation back then because you had to study too hard. You had to elevate your mind. You couldn't be a savage in the pursuit of happiness, just running around here now saying this, that, and the third, and taking people's lives for a bunch of nonsense because you out on your total character. Because a savage is a person who has lost knowledge of self and is living a beast life. A savage, is a person that could be in the pursuit of happiness, but they willing, what I'm saying, to sell their soul just so that they could gain the world. Once again, the history and design of our universal flag. Thick books, brothers were studying, and that's what made it so easy for me to be able to go to school and be successful. Because by me learning 120 degrees at the age of 14, by the time I hit Franklin K. Lane, I breezed through that. By the time I hit St. Augustine's College in 1980, from 1980 to 84, I breezed through that and got my college degree because that was the teachers of Almighty God Allah. For us to go to school and become educated, for us to get a trade and a skill so that we could be able to, uplift our people. Like they talk about the Du Bois and Booker T. Washington. Du Bois said the 10 elite could go away to college and then they'll come back and they'll be able to teach everybody and uplift the community, But that didn't happen because Booker T stated that if we go and get a trade and a skill, a vocational skill, just like all our brothers and sisters that come from other countries, come from the West Indies and everything. They got trades and skills. Why? Because they had to build their own houses, whether they were shacks or shanty houses or whatever. They had to learn how to do that. And that's why we were so successful prior to us becoming colonized, prior to us becoming a part of capitalism. We dealt with, as they would say, we know it ain't called Africa, but let's just keep it what people commonly are able to identify with. That they say back in our motherland that we dealt with the barter system. You know what I'm saying? And under the barter system, if I was a carpenter and the next brother was an electrician and then the next brother was a plumber, that they would all come together and help me build my house. And then after that, when it came time for the carpenter, we would go and help him build his house. So we was able to exchange, you know what I'm saying, our skills. And with us being able to bring our skills together, we will be able to build together. Instead of destroying one another, we'll be able to build with one another. So all I am to say to this right here, because I'm covering a lot of topics right here now, and this is just one thing that sparked me off. So I had to bring this and address this and let my man Bimmy know that don't speak on it just from the aspect like all 5%ers did, who sell drugs and commit crimes, and you was left there, the only one left out, because given I could go into a little history too, but I'm gonna wait until I got the rest of my paperwork before I address that part.